We go now to eNCA reporter Nobesuthu Hejana, who's been traveling with one family that finally received their grant today, and we cross live to Nobesuthu. Good afternoon to you again, and thank you so much for joining us. Earlier on, we had the Petersons, who were very excited and, very thankful. And it really pulls at your heartstrings that as South Africans, we're almost so used to hardship and just complete disdain that when you are paid money which you are entitled to constitutionally, you still have that courtesy to bow down and say, thank you, Minister, for the payment. Nonetheless, where are we now? Any other numbers that we have of people that may not have received their grant so far?
Well, Cindy, it's a situation that we've seen across the country, and the Petersons, in this particular case, are the ones that have now sort of like come victorious, if I may say, especially with their quest in trying to accessing those funds. If we talk about what we've seen 2 weeks back when we went to the Gatesville post office, we spoke to elderly people who were telling us that, one lady was even saying that she went to a retail store to find or to try and see if she could be able to get her money, and she was told that the balance was 60 cents, and the other person also went. She got half of that money, and when she inquired about where the rest of the money was, they could not tell her what happened to that money or what is the situation regarding her account. But 2 weeks later, we find the Petersons, they're now celebrating being able to access those funds. But there are other families. In fact, yesterday when we were in Vrygrond, we spoke to a gentleman, Mr. Freddy, who was telling us that he got 1,030 rand of his SASSA money, and when he went back to check his balance, his card or account, it was shown that it was declining. There were insufficient funds into his account, and there was no one to explain to him whether when should he expect the rest of the balance, or whether he would get it when he goes back next month for his SASSA grant money. So we're seeing different cases across the city, and not only in Cape Town but also in the province, where the provincial government that is trying to put pressure on the national government were saying that they failed because they were met with silence. There was no response from the minister's side as to what plans or what contingency plans should the provincial government take, and they were solely relying on the NGOs that were providing assistance, especially to those who did not have any groceries or food at their homes, where we saw also in Vrygrond people queuing up, the elderly people, and also those who are receiving their disability grant money. They were also there seeking food to an organization. We've also heard from another organization, Ms. Lucinda Evans, who was telling me that she was feeding about 450 senior people who were not at the time, who had not received their SASSA money. So it shows the desperation and how people that are solely dependent on the government's grant money, this is their only means or source of income. So if it's delayed or some are not getting it totally, then those people will be suffering.
And Nobesuthu, we were speaking to Tlou Siopa from the advocacy group Amandla.Mobi, saying they're assisting with elderly people around rural KwaZulu-Natal, and the fact that there is simply no alternative. It's not something that you can go to your local retailer to access your money if the post bank fails. They actually have to commute, in most cases, very far distances, and subjected to all sorts of unscrupulous characters who can overprice the fare of that particular commute. So it just ends up compounding over and over above the conditions that many of these elderly people also live under. Many commentators also saying it's a complete failure, from on the part of social development, the post bank, communications and digital technologies. It's a complete failure, and it's something that could have been prevented.
Certainly. I mean, when we were in Gatesville about 2 weeks back, we were speaking to people who were telling us that they have borrowed money to make those countless trips back and forth to try and see if the money will reflect in their accounts. And now one lady was also telling me that, I mean, she fears going back to the same people that she went to borrow the money from, because they're going to say, we gave you the money yesterday. You promised us that you will give us the money once you get your social grant money. And then if we keep giving you this money, this means your debt increases. So will they be able to repay those monies? And also what will be left in their accounts? So one lady was also saying that she was there to find out if she could also get the grant money for her children, 3 children at the time, and she mentioned that, I mean, there's no food at home and she can't explain to her children what is it that she's going to do, or any plans. She didn't have any plans. And one gentleman was even crying and telling us that while we're doing the interview with him, that he was hungry, so he does not know what he's going to do when he goes back home, because it was on a Friday, and looking at the weekend and then going into Monday, he has no plans as to what will they eat at home for the next 2 days. And just looking at the fact that a lot of people were impacted, and some hopefully will also be able to get their social grant money, like the Petersons, who at this stage were able to get Mr. Christian Peterson after 2 weeks trying. His wife also struggled, and she was able to get her money after a week for the constant traveling back and forth, trying to see if when she goes to the post bank or to the retail store, there will be funds reflecting in her account.
Yes, and so what you're saying, contrary to the public relations exercise we saw and the promises that all is well, social grant beneficiaries have been paid, you can say on record that this is not absolutely true for all recipients, that there are still those who are waiting for payment, albeit that promises have been made.
Certainly. My colleague Aisha, yesterday when we got back to the office, she reached out to a contact in Malmesbury. She had done a story there also where elderly people were queuing up in the rain hoping to access their funds, and the lady that she spoke to last week indicated that she was still waiting for her pension money. And like the lady that I spoke to from Bontierville, who is taking or looking after 5 foster children, who was telling us that she was quite disappointed at what the minister was saying, because she is still waiting for her money after she was told to email, to reach out using that WhatsApp line, and she was told that her funds will reflect within 24 hours. She waited, and yesterday when we spoke to her, she was telling us she was still waiting because it had passed the 24 hours that she was meant to wait up until her accounts will reflect the funds.
Yeah, maybe Nobesuthu, just before we say goodbye to you, a bit of hope and motivation, as you had spoken to the Petersons. What did they have to say around just receiving the grant money finally and going forward, how they will be spending their Heritage Weekend?
Certainly. I mean, off camera, Ms. Peterson was telling me that Mr. Peterson will definitely buy her a chocolate today, because we do know that we had to leave them as they're doing their groceries. So she was telling me that this weekend is going to be a big weekend. They will be buying to celebrate Heritage Day. So if you are planning to, or you're rather a neighbor of the Petersons, you definitely know that you will see smoke coming from that particular house, because they are planning a big braai.
Well, to be honest, man, I'm myself. I feel like I'm myself. I can laugh now, I smile, and I can see the tension. It's just fading away now. Yes.
So tell us about your experience inside. Was it easy? Were there any delays for you to get your money finally?
Well, there was a slightly delay, yes, because my cards was right by the machine, but there was a slightly thing, but everything is all right. I got all my money, and I'm very proud about it.
Yeah.
So, Nobesuthu, just very quickly, just in your inbox, if you'll be traveling to any other families that have reached out of desperation to want to have their concerns also voiced with regards to the delayed payments, I'm sure you've got quite a bit on your plate when it comes to the SASSA debacle.
We'll definitely reach out to the family of the lady that is looking after her 5 foster children to find out whether, at least today, later on the day, whether she was able to get the money. If not, what are the plans? Is there hope for her, or was she told to go back either on Monday or Tuesday? Or is she now going to have to wait for the next month's SASSA grant date, and whether she's anticipating any challenges going forward?
All right, Nobesuthu, thank you so much for your time. That is eNCA reporter Nobesuthu Hejana just giving us an update on the SASSA situation, where some recipients still haven't received their money.